Cities in South Florida.
The homeless. The city is full of homeless.
Heading to the polls, Caplin News has live coverage of Election Day. Sparks fly.
I think it went very well.
As a former president takes a stand. And on the eve of Miami's debate,
enormous discontent with American politics.
We take a look at the evolution of the Republican Party with our DC Bureau. These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Good morning, South Florida. I'm Julian Davis.
I'm Samantha Gutierrez. Today is Tuesday, November 7th, 2023.
Live from the Lee Caplin School of Journalism and Media in North Miami, this is Caplin News.
It's Election Day in several South Florida cities, including Miami Beach. Not only are a handful of commission seats up for grabs, but voters need to replace Mayor Dan Gilbert, who is out due to term limits.
Caplin's Samuel Arreal is live in Miami Beach with a preview.
Good morning. It is Election Day here in Miami-Dade County, and here on Miami Beach, voters are heading to the polls to choose for a new mayor. I was here on Sunday, the last day of early voting, talking to voters and the candidates. Let's see what they had to say. Overdevelopment, homelessness, public safety, and spring breakers. At least for these candidates, it is clear what Miami Beach residents want from a new mayor. Less high-rises, less people living on the streets, and for the love of God, no spring breakers.
The homeless. The city is full of homeless. They will get into my building and I have to call the police.
Miami Beach recently passed a law that would allow police officers to arrest any person living on the streets if they deny moving to a homeless shelter. Despite criticisms citing the law as cruel and inhumane, candidate for mayor and original proponent of the law, Commissioner Stephen Maynard, says that this policy will help people facing homelessness and mental illness.
Saying to them, so that individual who's sleeping in public, we have services, we have shelter, will you accept that? Will you go? And if at that point they still continue to say no, yes, they could be arrested. It's the officers.
Ex-CEO of MTV and political outsider Bill Rody points to his business experience and public health activism as valid credentials to become the next mayor of Miami Beach.
Never run for political office before. I'll be a 24/7 mayor. I don't accept any money from developers, lobbyists, or vendors. I'm totally self-funded.
Michael Gonger, on the other hand, says that his long experience as Miami Beach Commissioner makes him the best man for the job, and the Miami Beach Police Department seems to agree with him.
Priority is public safety, and that's why the Miami Beach Police have endorsed me. They trust me to work with them to do more proactive policing and make sure that Miami Beach is safe.
Additionally to choosing a new mayor, Miami Beach residents are also voting for 3 new city commissioners. Another headliner for the race is Mike Greco. The former lawyer and commissioner has been tied in controversy as he left a handgun unattended on his back on a dog park over here near South Beach. Here in Caplin News, we are following the elections on the whole of Miami-Dade, in Homestead, Hialeah, and the city of Miami. To follow our live coverage, go to go to caplinnews.fiu.edu and keep up with elections all day. Live for Caplin News, this is Samuel Arreal.
Today is Election Day, not just here in Florida, but in state races across the country. This year's elections include a few races for both elective offices and even mayors. For example, Ohio's election is in favor of a 2-ballot measure that would make a law to legalize marijuana. There are also a lot of legislative positions that could determine which states outlaw abortion.
Today's Election Day starts the 1-year countdown to next year's presidential election. Caplin News' DC reporter Alexander Howard takes a look at the evolution of the Republican Party from the days of Ronald Reagan to the day of Donald Trump.
Republican presidents who once sat inside the Oval Office have varied since the party's birth in 1854. Now the GOP is associated with Donald Trump, but it once was the party of Ronald Reagan, a president who arguably fostered the party's conservative ideals in the 1980s. But how has the party now completely centered around the former businessman?
He essentially tackled the structure of the Republican Party. Everything that he talked about, right? This enormous discontent with American politics. That's reflected in poll after poll. Americans don't trust their politicians. They don't trust political institutions. And Trump kind of brought that to the fore, by essentially saying, I am the only one who can solve it. He didn't say the Republican Party. He said, I'm the only one who can solve it. That essentially buried the old style Republican leadership. What exists today is not the old Republican Party. It's Trump's political party with an amorphous ideology, with an amorphous kind of structure. And that's what I say. It's less a party and more a movement.
To give a perspective into the mind of a voter, voters from the presidential elections of 1980 and 2020 gave their insight into how the GOP affected their choice at the ballot box.
I did not vote for Ronald Reagan because the perception of his ideology and the people that was influencing me was that of being a racist.
I just don't really like the things that he says and the things that he stands for. I feel like he's sown a lot of hatred in our country and a lot of division. And I didn't want someone like that to be representing our country for 4 more years, so I voted Biden.
Reporting for Caplin News in Washington, D.C., I'm Alexandra Howard.
For the GOP debate here in Miami, the stage is not only set this morning, but we know who will be standing on it. At the Arch Center tomorrow night, it will be just 5 candidates. They were announced yesterday: Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, and Vivek Ramaswamy. Former President Trump is choosing instead to hold a campaign rally in Hialeah.
This morning, Israel's military is advancing to Gaza City and cutting off all communication. Since Sunday, the Israel army says it has struck 450 Hamas targets. According to the Hamas-controlled health ministry, over 10,000 Palestinians have been killed and at least 1,400 Israelis. This adds to the mountain of global pressure for a humanitarian ceasefire.
We see scenes of absolute carnage. There are patients on the floors.
Israel's and Hamas death tolls continue to rise. Meanwhile, the turmoil between the two is triggering hate crimes across the U.S. Since the October 7th attack by Hamas, anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. are up 388%. Muslims are also being targeted.
There's a new National Geographic list this morning, and South Florida is right near the top. When it comes to the United States, both New York and Texas are included in the list, with recommendations such as Lake Placid and Niagara Falls. Another spot to visit in the U.S. is the Sunshine State, more specifically here in Miami. The other half of the list takes places in Europe.
Two-time Heat champion LeBron makes a return to the team's home court.
That's still ahead, and so is his story. President Trump on the stand and getting into a war of words with the judge in his New York civil trial. Newsbreak will be back in 2 minutes.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Every day,
millions of people are connecting.
And even though we're overcoming obstacles,
watching each other's backs,
and banding together,
we should still make an effort.
We should still make an effort
to get to know each other
on a deeper level. Father,
cosplayer,
mentor,
actor.
It's time we take a step forward.
It's time we take a step forward.
Come together
and discover
how accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
Back and forth in the courtroom between Donald Trump and a judge in New York. The former president took the stand for nearly 4 hours yesterday.
There wasn't a single camera in the courtroom, but CNN's Paula Reed was watching it all.
During nearly 4 hours on the stand, Trump continuously clashed with Judge Arthur Engoron. I'm sure the judge will rule against me because he always rules against me. The judge responding, you can attack me, you can do whatever you want, but answer the question. In another testy exchange, the judge had to instruct defense attorney Chris Kise to control your client, adding, this is not a political rally. We are here to hear him answer questions, and most of the time, he's not, the judge said, and then threatened to remove Trump from the stand. On the financial statements at the heart of the case, I accepted it. Other people did it, but I didn't say make it higher or make it lower, he said. Trump's conduct has become a flashpoint in this case.
You have a racist attorney general who made some terrible statements.
Even before he took the stand, Trump took aim at New York Attorney General Letitia James, later calling her a political hack in court.
The only thing that matters are the facts and the numbers. And numbers, my friends, don't lie.
That was CNN's Paula Reed reporting. The former president's adult sons testified last week, and his daughter Ivanka Trump is scheduled to testify tomorrow.
LeBron James came back to Miami with the Los Angeles Lakers to play against the Heat. The teams were balanced throughout the game, scoring almost the same amount of points in the first half. It was in the second where the Heat had some momentum to keep their lead over the Lakers, and in the game-changing charge made by Kyle Lowry late in the fourth, the Heat cemented their close victory. The final score was Los Angeles 107, Heat 108. The Heat will head to Tennessee to play the Memphis Grizzlies tomorrow at 8 p.m.
The Florida Panthers are celebrating their home game victory this morning after facing the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Cats looked ferocious in the first period, scoring 3 back-to-back goals in just the first period. But that didn't last long. The Blue Jackets came back in the second period and took the lead in the third. In classic cardiac Cat fashion, Nick Cousins scored the score-tying goal to end the game into overtime. It was then that Carter Verhaeghe scored the game winner for the Panthers. The last score in last night's game was Columbus 4, Panthers 5 in overtime. The Panthers head to Washington, D.C. to take on Washington Capitol tomorrow night. You're watching Newsbreak, and we'll be right back.
I could really use a new tablet. I just don't have the money.
Let me ask you something. Do you have a Pell Grant?
Yes?
You do know you can get a free tablet, right?
Did you say free?
Yeah, free. It's simple. And the application is done in the store.
I could really use a tablet.
Go get one. Another satisfied customer. Stop by PantherTech in the Graham Center at FIU MMC today to speak with one of our associates to get your free tablet.
Type 2 diabetes can have a big impact on your life. But how can it be prevented? Well, the first step is knowing if you have something called prediabetes. Take the 1-minute risk test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
That's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Samantha Gutierrez.
And I'm Julian Davis. Get more news anytime at caplinnews.fiu.edu.